picking up with Chapter 10, Voice of Saruman. I'm going to try and get us up to Chapter 4 in the second half of Two Towers. If we can get farther than that, it'd be great, but more than likely we won't even get that far. So, they meaning Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Merry, and Pippin. Along with Theoden, Eomer, some of the writers, go to have a conversation with Saruman. And Saruman is up in Orthanc and won't come out, obviously, because he's scared. And we're told, page 577, Gandalf says, I will go up. I've been in Orthanc. I know my peril. There's also another reason why he'll go up. He's not afraid. Okay. He has, quote unquote, all the power now. Not all the power, but he's got, the power and such. Theoden says, I too will go up. I'm old, I fear no peril anymore. I wish to speak with the enemy who's done me, blah, blah, blah. Gandalf said, Aragorn, you're coming with me. The rest of you stay down. So who's the rest of them? Legolas, Gimli, Merry, Pippin, the other writers. Okay. Gimli, nay, Legolas and I wish for a closer view. We alone here represent our kindreds. Gandalf says, okay. And Theoden goes up behind him. The riders, notice, stay down on the ground, but they're on their horses. Okay? So they go up. And Gandalf cries out, Saruman, 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 come forth. There's a biblical parallel, there, by the way, there. It's kind of like Lazarus, come forth. And we hear a voice. What do you wish? Who is it? Theoden, I know that voice. It's not Saruman's. It's Wormtongue's. So Gandalf gives Wormtongue a command. The window closes, and it opens again, and out comes Saruman. And I really encourage you, you'll do this if you're a Tolkien nerd. Not many of you are on the basis of how many of you have read the books before. The BBC in 1981, I think, the BBC did a radio version of The Lord of the Rings. It was a 26-part, half-hour episodes, so 13-hour total, dramatization. So, and I can't remember, I want to say it was Ted Cassidy. His voice is perfect, okay? Because when Saruman wants to cajole you, wants to get you on his side, his voice just drips with honey. I mean, it's just the sweetest sounding voice you can imagine. So, we hear, well, why must you disturb my rest? Will you give me no peace at all by night or day? Why by night or day? Well, what have the Ents been doing for the last several days?
Blasting his tower.
Yeah, wrecking Isengard, okay? And they look and they see a figure standing at the rail, looking down on them. Old man, great cloak. Gimli, like and yet unlike. That is, look to how much hope that he seeks. Help a council here, but you, Theoden, Lord of the Mark of Rowan. And then what does he say? How does he describe Theoden? You are declared by your noble devices, and still more by the fair countenance of the house of Errol. Man, you guys are good looking. It's like the Hemsworth clan, except for the ugly third or fourth brother. I can't remember what it is. He's short and fat, and he's not anything like Chris and Liam. Okay? He's saying, what a handsome man you are. Oh, shut up, Siri.
It's got to be like once per class.
O worthy son of Thingol, the thrice renowned, why have you not come before? As a friend, much have I desired to see you, mightiest king of western lands, blah, 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 blah. What's the purpose of this initial speech by Saruman?
Butter him up.
Both sides and backsides. I mean, he's just throwing out all the flattery. Okay? Theoden opens his mouth as if to speak, but doesn't say anything. This is an important little detail. Okay? He looks up. He hesitates, and notice Gandalf doesn't do a thing. Gandalf doesn't go, Theoden, don't pay any attention. He doesn't do like Dumbledore would do in the Harry Potter novels, you know. Kind of a, this is not the voice you should listen to. Makes the fantasy series. Gimli speaks. The words of this wizard stand on their heads. In the language of Orthanc, help means ruin. Saving means slaying. That is plain. We do not come here to beg. Now, in the language of Orthanc, notice, help means ruin. Saving means slaying. Who else, about the same time as Tolkien is at least revising this, writes an entire novel about the twisting of language? Anybody know? No? George Orwell. In 1948, he writes 1984. And what is one of the key components of 1984? Well, it's when INGSOC comes out with the Dictionary of Newspeak, and you have the practice of doublespeak and doublethink. War is peace. Slavery is freedom. Okay? That's just what Gimli said. He's saying, what is Saruman doing? He's trying to use our words against us. He's trying to change the very way we think by changing the meanings of words. Orwell, by the way, was a prophet. If you've never read 1984, read 1984 and then start watching the news. Okay? Saruman, peace! And notice, for a fleeting instant, his voice was less suave. And a light flickered in his eyes. I do not speak to you yet, Gimli Gloinson. How does he know who Gimli is?
He's been watching them?
Possibly. Far away is your own blah, 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 blah. He says, no, I want to speak to my once friend. So he addresses Theoden for a second time. What have you to say, Theoden King? Will you have peace with me and all the aid that my knowledge, founded in long years, can bring? Okay, now keep in mind, who within kind of the realm of Middle-earth, who is, / was, prior to Gandalf's coming back from the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, who was Saruman?
Saruman the White.
Saruman the White. What else?
The leader of the council.
The leader of the White Council. So if we were to extrapolate from Middle-earth to our world, Saruman is kind of like what? Who is the quote-unquote leader of the free people of Earth, our Earth? It's the President of the United States. Doesn't matter what party. Generally, in terms of at least the last 100 years, or let's go from 1920 to 1990, during the period of the Soviet Union, you had this great battle between East, West. I think the applicability works. Mordor, Soviet Union and its allies, and United States, West, and its allies. Okay? So this is not somebody you just kind of willy-nilly turn your back on. This is not somebody whose advice, counsel, aid, you just go, nah, I don't need it. Still, Theoden doesn't answer. Eomer speaks. Lord, hear me. Now we feel the peril that we were warned of. Have we ridden forth to victory only to stand at last amazed by an old liar with honey on his forked tongue? So would the trapped wolf speak to the hounds. If he could. What aid can he give to you? Forsooth. That means truly. All he desires is to escape from his plight. But will you parley with this dealer in treachery and murder? Remember Theodred at the fords and the grave of Hama in Helm's Deep. Who's Theodred?
His son.
Theoden's son. What are the fords that he's talking about? This was a surprise attack by Saruman's forces on a quote-unquote peaceful village where he slaughtered women and children. Okay? That Theodred then went to defend and was killed. And his body was hacked in pieces. What happened to Hama? His body was hacked in pieces. Okay? Some of you might remember, probably most of you won't, because probably most of you weren't born. In fact, maybe none of you were born. Take that back, you were born. You would have just been young. Second Gulf War, 2003, early, maybe 2004. When the United States started rolling into Baghdad, or just about, or the coalition forces, started rolling into Baghdad before Saddam Hussein disappeared from public view. Anybody know what he did? He did exactly what Saruman is doing. He went on TV and he said, okay, let's make a deal. And quote unquote, the generals of the West kind of said, really? Make a deal? Why? We've got all the leverage. You don't make a deal with someone who's sinking. You let him sink. Okay? He acted like a wolf whose back was up to the hounds. Okay? So why does Éomer bring up Theodred and Hama? He speaks peace, and he does what? His actions are different. Saruman, if we speak of poisoned tongues, what shall we say of yours, young serpent? Ooh, he's losing his cool. And the flash of his anger was now plain. But come, Éomer, Éoman's son. To every man his part. Notice what he's doing. Slathering on that butter. Why? You're a warrior. Valor in arms is yours, and you win high honor thereby. What he means is, you get better pay the higher the body count you get. Okay? Slay whom your Lord names as enemies and be content. In other words, son, you're a weapon. Weapons don't think. Weapons aren't paid to think. Weapons are paid to work. Do your job. Kill whom your Lord says to kill. Don't think about it. Meddle not in policies which you do not understand. In other words, this is big, high diplomacy we're talking about. You don't have any training in the diplomatic centers of the world. Go away. But maybe if you become king, you will find that he must choose his friends with care. Kings must be diplomatic. They can't just say, we're not going to do this anymore. The friendship of Saruman and the power of Orthanc cannot be lightly thrown aside. Whatever grievances, real or fancied, may lay behind. By throwing in that or fancied, what's he just done?
Saying that their deaths were made up or something similar.
Yeah. You think you know what happened at the fords. But that's not the whole story. You've won a battle, not a war. And you've done that with help you cannot count on again. You know, you may find the shadow of the wood at your own door next. Can you control the Hjorns? How do you know they're not going to creep up on you at night? And ow! But my Lord of Rowan, third time, am I to be called a murderer because valiant men have fallen in battle? And he introduces a moral equivalence. Okay? What's he just equalized? Murder with what? Death in battle. Are the two the same? They're not. What's the difference between killing someone in war? Let me qualify this. Someone's over there shooting at you, you're shooting back, you kill him. Is that murder? Kill or be killed, okay? It's not murder. How's murder defined?
Criminal act.
It's a criminal act, first of all. It's intentional. It's plotted, whether you're talking first or third degree. Notice, we're talking murder. We're not talking homicide. We're not talking negligent homicide. You know, you accidentally kill someone in a car wreck. It's not murder. Unless I saw Vernon and I was planning to nail him somehow. Okay? Murder is intentional. It's always evil. Now, unless you're pacifist, this is not always evil. There's a whole quote-unquote doctrine of what's called just war theory, about 2,000 years old. Some would say it's even older. So, if you go to war needlessly, I didn't desire it, then men will be slain. What's he just said? You started it. You started this war. But if I'm a murderer on that account, then guess what? So is your entire house. Meaning, so is your entire nation. Why? What has the house of Arrow been doing for hundreds of years? Fighting battles. So you're all murderers too. But they made peace with some of their enemies afterwards. None the worse for being politic. Think of the United States and Japan. Think of the United States and Germany after World War II. Shall we have peace and friendship? It's ours to command. We can do it. We can overlook the past. You know, when Trump met with crazy fat North Korean guy, I can never remember. Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-sun or whatever. Kim Jong something or other. You know, what was one of the things that the quote-unquote foreign policy establishment was worried about? That Trump will give him carte blanche. That Trump will sign away, you know. All the quote-unquote leverage. And doesn't matter what you think of Trump, the point is, what was being said was, Trump wants to make a deal. Why? He's a deal maker. You don't get involved in real estate if you're not willing to wheel and deal, okay? He's just taking that and applying it to foreign policy, which nobody has ever done before. That's not how foreign policy is typically done. Foreign policy is typically done like a chess match. 3D chess match, okay? So Saruman is saying, can we get beyond these little difficulties we've had? Like Otto Warmbier, who accidentally died while in our custody. You know, the 50,000 or so American servicemen who died in the Korean War. I mean, okay, it was a problem. Okay, the nuclear weapon. That might be a little snafu. And finally, Theoden replies, "We will have peace." And those several of the writers cry out, "Yes!" Why? They think he's going to agree with them? You'll see memes every Thursday on Facebook. RED, what's it mean? Remember everyone deployed until the last one comes home. I've got friends who have sons in the military. I've got one son just graduated from Marine boot camp. Another son just graduated from Army boot camp. Another son's getting ready to go. She's got 5 boys. Another one's getting ready to go in the Coast Guard. Okay? Until everyone comes home. Well, what's the problem with that idea? We will never have every troop come home. Why?
We're the police of the world.
Whether we like it or not. And even if we're not, there's still define home. It's not home, my home. It might be they come home, in which case they do what? Ring around Fortress America kind of thing. Okay? We will have peace. Notice, he didn't finish. We will have peace. We will have peace. He says it 3 times. Why?
He was addressed 3 times.
He was addressed 3 times. Okay? I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if this is right or not, but there might be a parallel here with a passage from the Bible. And remember, Tolkien said in one of his letters, The Lord of the Rings is fundamentally a religious and Catholic work, more so in the revising than in the creation. Okay? What's the parallel? 3 times on the night of his crucifixion, Peter denies Christ. After the resurrection, 3 times Christ asks Peter, Peter, do you love me? Peter says, yes. Feed my sheep, feed my sheep. 3 times Saruman asks, will we have peace? 3 times Theoden says, yes, we're going to have peace. But he only says, when, once. When you and all your works have perished. In the works of your dark master to whom you would deliver us. Well, who's the dark master? Sauron. Here's when we're going to have peace, when you're dead and buried. You hold out your hand to me, and I perceive only a finger of the claw of Mordor. In other words, you're a peon. But you're a peon who works for the big evil. Even if your war on me was just as it was not. And Tolkien introduces the idea of just war. What are 2 things, 2 disqualifications of quote-unquote the definition of a just war? What are 2 things that are outlawed by the Geneva Convention? Anybody know? Chemical warfare, which they didn't have here. Well, Saruman kind of, plays around with it. Attacking
Unarmed.
civilian populations. Attacking unarmed non-combatants. Okay? Even though World War II, the Germans attacked civilian populations, the bombing of London, but one could make the argument, as the Germans did, that's a command and control thing. In the United States, and the Allies bombed German civilian populations. The firebombing of Dresden. Ancient city. Why do we do it? To try to break the will of Germany. One of my ancestors took a little march one day through Georgia. Why did Sherman march from Atlanta to Savannah? To break the back of the South. To cut off supply lines, the whole 9 yards. Okay? So he says, yes, if your war on me was just as it was not, even so, what will you say of your torches in Westfold and the children that lie dead there? You don't go after children. You don't kill children. You don't use children as shields. And they hewed Hamma's body before the gates of the Hornburg after he was dead. So, he was dead. It's not like he went, oh, that hurt, oh, that hurt. What's Theoden's point?
He was disrespected.
There is something sacred about the body. You know what really, you can go back and watch news accounts, what really angered Americans. One, in 1993, film was made about it, Black Hawk Down, in Somalia. Okay? And then in 2005, I think it was, when we had 4 quote-unquote contractors caught and killed in Baghdad, and then their bodies were hung from the bridges over the Tigris and Euphrates and quote-unquote desecrated. Really pissed off a lot of people. Okay? That's what he's getting at. When you hang from a gibbet at your window for the sport of your own crows, then I'll have peace with Orthanc. Okay? Your voice has lost its charm. And the writers think, oh, man, now we're never going home. Now we'll never see our wives, families, etc. And Saruman leans over. And he just what? He's not used to being talked to like this. He just loses it. Gibbets and crows, dotard, what is the house of Arrow but a thatched barn where brigands drink? Wait, what did he first say? The noble house of Arrow. Such fine-looking men, your beautiful home, etc. And now he calls it a thatched barn. Okay? And then he addresses Gandalf. For you at least I am grieved, feeling for your shame. What shame? What should Gandalf be ashamed of? Look at the riffraff you're hanging around with. I mean, there's a dwarf for Pete's sake. And these brigands who roll around in the mud. Come on, Gandalf, you're proud. And not without reason, having a noble mind, eyes that look both deep and far. Won't you listen to me? And Gandalf's like, what do you have to say that you didn't say the last time we met? Or what do you have to unsay? What's he mean by unsay?
Apologize for.
Bingo. Are you going to apologize? He can't take it back, right? He can't say, Gandalf, I'm going to hit the rebound. He can't do that. But he can apologize. He can say, I was wrong. Saruman, unsay? What do you... I tried to advise you for your own good. And so he lays it all on doubly thick, and he asks that question, will you not come up? And we're told, so great was the power that Saruman exerted in this last effort that none that stood within hearing were unmoved. But now the spell was wholly different. They heard the gentle remonstrance of a kindly king with an erring but much loved minister. Okay, who is the none include? None that were within hearing were unmoved. Okay, that includes Gandalf. It includes Aragorn. It includes Legolas and Gimli. It includes Theoden. It includes Éomer. Everybody's kind of like, but we're told some thought Gandalf would ascend into the tower to discuss deep things beyond their comprehension. In the mind of Theoden, the thought took shape, and he thought, that's it, we're screwed. He will betray us. And Gandalf laughs. He says, Saruman, Saruman, you missed your path in life. You should have been King's Jester. I'm beyond your comprehension. Why?
He is now Gandalf the White.
He's now Gandalf the White? Okay, so why does that make him beyond Saruman's comprehension?
I guess he was given more power by wherever he came from.
Okay. Remember when Gandalf first came back and Gimli says, Gandalf, you're all in white. How did Gandalf reply? I am white. In the fairy story essay, Tolkien includes a snippet of a poem that he wrote to a friend of his. The friend was C.S. Lewis. Okay? And in that poem, Gandalf talks about all stories, in fact, he talks about all people being splinters of white light. Splinters. That is, there is ultimately a single white light. For Tolkien, that's God. And all stories are little elements, and all individuals are little reflections or refractions of that white light. What has Gandalf just said? I am white. Now, he said to the Balrog, I am a servant of the secret fire. Has he been transformed into the secret fire? I don't know. Tolkien's Catholic. I'm not sure about Catholic doctrine, but in Orthodox doctrine, there is this thing called Theosis. Okay? It's the idea that every person is created to become like God by God's grace. Okay? So that when the book of Genesis says that Adam was made in the image of likeness of God, he's made in the image, meaning free will, the ability to choose. Likeness means to become like God. How? By exercising that free will. By choosing the right, by choosing the good. Okay? I don't know if Catholic doctrine has a similar thing. I think they've got something that's close. But if they do, this might be what Gandalf becomes. Gandalf has become, quote-unquote, divinized, Eru-ized, if you want, Iluvatar-ized. possibly. So that he's beyond doubt or temptation. Okay? Doesn't mean he's all powerful. Doesn't mean he has that stick and, etc. Okay? That's possibly what he means when he says, I am beyond your comprehension. What did Gimli say to Éomer about Éomer and his comments about Galadriel? He said,
he didn't know what he was talking about.
Didn't know what he was talking about. You speak of that which is beautiful far beyond your wit. No, you can't even contemplate that. I think it was, I mentioned in here, St. Anselm the Great defined God as that beyond which, be higher than which, nothing can be thought. It's the highest thought possible. You can't even begin to comprehend me, he says to Saruman. He says, but you, I know too well. And what does he offer him? A second chance. He says, will you not come down? Isengard hasn't been so good for you, has it? Will you now turn to new things, perhaps? Think, well, will you not come down? What does Saruman think? He just wants my staff. He just wants more power. Gandalf, the treacherous are ever distrustful. You're going to see a very similar line in the Harry Potter novels, the fourth book, between Professor Moody and Harry. But you need not fear for your skin. I don't wish to kill you or hurt you, as you would know if you really understood me, if you could comprehend me. What does Gandalf really want for Saruman?
Them to change.
Go back to what he says about Gollum at the beginning of the book. What's he hope for Gollum? That he will find his cure before he dies. I'm giving you a last chance. He's actually not. Why? Because he gives him a last chance at least 2 more times, if I remember correctly. He gives him a second chance, a third and fourth time. Why? He wants Saruman to change. He wants Saruman to find his healing before he, quote-unquote, dies. So, Saruman blows a gasket and leaves. And Gandalf's like, whoa, I'm not done with you yet. Come back. Bottom of 583. I did not give you to leave to go. I have not finished. You have become a fool, Saruman, and yet pitiable. You might have turned away from following evil and have been of service. You might have turned from your foolishness and evil and done what? What does been of service mean?
Helped out.
You might have served others. You might have helped others in this grand plan against Sauron. Because obviously, Saruman knows some things about Sauron that the others don't. Okay? And he says, I am not Gandalf the Grey whom you betrayed. I'm Gandalf the White, who has returned from death. You have no color now, and I cast you from the Order and from the Council. What does he mean, from the Order?
Secret fire?
Nope. Well, that's an interesting question. Really interesting. I have to see if Tolkien says anything about that. I don't think he does. From the Order of Wizards. They are called the Istari. There's actually 5 of them. Only 3 of them are named. Gandalf the Grey, Radagast the Brown, Saruman the White. There's another one that's blue, and I don't remember the color of the last one. So, pardon? Yeah, 2 blue ones, sorry. So, he says, you're no longer one of these. Does that mean he's no longer a, because all the wizards are these? They are that, lower angelic level? Does he make him no longer one of those?
No, he just takes his credentials.
Kind of takes his credentials. You know what happens to a cop who no longer has his shield? Not a cop. Okay? If my supposition earlier about this in Gandalf, when he said, I am white now. Now, if that's true, then yeah, he could say you're no longer one of these two. You're no longer a Maiar. Now you're just a, physical thing, that shell that you inhabit. Okay? You have no color now. I cast you from the order, from the council. Your staff is broken. And somebody throws something. Okay? Gandalf talks to the others about what's happened to Saruman, bottom of 584, top of 585. He says we can't destroy Orthanc, etc. And Pippin asks, top of 585, and what if Sauron does not conquer? That is, what if we happen to win? What will you do to Saruman? What does Pippin's question entail? What does it presuppose about Gandalf and Saruman? Okay, what else?
He's going to be over him.
That Gandalf will be in a position of judgment. So what are you going to do to him when this is all over? Nothing. I will do nothing to him. I do not wish for mastery. In the fairy story essay, Tolkien defines magic. I think I put this the other day on the board. Domination of wills and things. Domination's mastery. Control. He says, I don't want control of anything else. What does he control? Himself, his actions. Does he try to influence people? Of course he does. Does he force people ever to do something? No, he doesn't. Why? That takes away free will. You force someone to be good, they're not good. You force someone to be evil, you force someone to kill somebody else. That person who does the killing, in this kind of mentality, is not a murderer. Who is?
The person who forced
Person
him.
who did the forcing. Okay? So, they go on and we get chapter 11, the Palantir. What is the Palantir?
It's like a seeing orb.
It's a seeing orb. What would we call that in our world? A crystal ball, right? I mean, the Wizard of Oz shows Dorothy little things in it. It's a crystal ball. Palantir simply means far-seeing. We don't have one in here. A lot of classrooms, there's a television. Palantir is the Numenorian word for television. Far vision, sight. Okay? So what's it do? Who made it? Made by the men of Numenor. Why? So they could communicate from vast distances. You look into one here, it's connected to one over here, it's connected to the one over there, which is connected to the one over there. There was originally one on Weathertop. It wasn't there, obviously, when they visited. Okay? So why is the Palantir so important here? Who picked it up after Wormtongue threw it out of the Tower of Orthanc? Pippin did. And what's happened ever since then? He got some itchy fingers. He wants to pick it up again. So, one night, he goes over to Gandalf, because Gandalf's sleeping with it with the crook of his arm, and he replaces the Palantir with a rock. He goes off and he looks into the Palantir, and he screams, wakes everybody up. Page 59. He's brought to Gandalf. Gandalf calls him back. Pippin's first words, Gandalf, Gandalf, forgive me. What's the forgive me tell us?
That he knows he did something wrong.
Knows he did something wrong, and he's still good. He's not been, quote unquote, taken over. He's not succumbed to whatever the power was. Gandalf, tell me, whoa, slow down. You got to tell me what you did first. I took the ball and I looked at it. Notice the agency. He doesn't say the ball came to me and looked at me. I took it. I looked at it. I saw things that frightened me. I wanted to go away, but I couldn't. And then he came and questioned me. He looked at me and I don't remember. No, you got to tell me more. What's Gandalf doing?
Persuading.
Is he persuading? I could be wrong, but I think this is part of Tolkien's Catholicism. Tolkien attended Mass more than once a week. He would ride in on his bike or walk in from his house, and there was, depending on the way he came into town, there is one church, St. Aloysius, that he would go to regularly. Well, part of going to Mass is also going to confession. And what does the priest do? The priest doesn't just listen to you. The priest also asks questions. Why? To get to the root of whatever the illness is, to kind of, pour the disinfectant on it. No, got to be more than that, Pippin. I saw a dark sky, tall battlement, tiny stars, seemed very far away, long ago, hard, clear. Then the stars went in and out, very big wings. And I tried to get away, but I couldn't. And then he came. He just looked, I understood. And this is what he said. So you've come back. Why have you neglected? And then he said, who are you? And I didn't answer, but I said, a hobbit. And then suddenly he seemed to see me, and he laughed at me. It was cruel. It was like being stabbed with knives. I struggled. He said, whoa, hold on. Tell Saruman this dainty is not for him. I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that. Who's he talking about? Satan. He's talking, Sauron. He's talking to Sauron. Or Sauron was talking, and he was just like, okay. Gandalf says, look at me. He looks at Gandalf. Gandalf says, you've taken no harm. There's no lie in your eyes. He did not speak long with you. You a fool. You are a fool, but you're an honest fool. In other words, you come by your foolishness honestly. You're not a traitorous fool. Okay? Wiser ones might have done worse in such a pass. You've been saved, and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune, as it is called. Name. Elrond used that exact same language. Okay? Gandalf used similar language when he says, Bilbo found the ring, he was meant to, etc. You cannot count on it a second time. What's the good fortune? It's a eucatastrophe. It's that sudden miraculous turn of events that you can't expect to happen a second time. Because what could have happened? He could have been overtaken. Sauron could have taken control of Pippin. Okay? So, bottom of that page, Gandalf gives the Palantir to Aragorn. Why?
He's not tempted by it.
Louder?
He's not tempted by it.
He's not tempted by it? Maybe. Why else? It belongs to him. He is a direct heir of the kings of Numenor. Okay? His ancestors made this thing. This is like a long lost family heirloom coming back home. Been some articles in the news lately. Greece is raising a ruckus. They have been for many years. Why? Because they want the Elgin marbles. They want the marble carvings that adorn the top of the Parthenon to come back to Athens, Greece. Where are they? They're in London, in the British Museum. Why? A guy named Lord Elgin took them from Greece in the 19th century. It was a time of kind of, finders keepers. That's why the Rosetta Stone is there and not in Egypt, where it was discovered, dug up, and taken from. Okay? It would be like the Elgin marbles going back to Greece today. So, Gandalf warns him. He says, receive it, but don't use it. Not yet, be wary. Aragorn's like, come on, man. When have I been hastier and wary? I mean, I've been waiting a long time to become king. He says, no, you're fine. Okay? So, Gandalf and Pippin leave. Why? What is the Palantir for Pippin?
drug.
Keep going.
Kind of wants to know more and more and more about it.
It's a temptation.
Right. Well, every time he sees it, he wants to have it.
He's got to get another fix. To follow Travis's, drug metaphor. The one wasn't enough. Now he needs more. Okay? So it's a temptation for him. So Gandalf's going to take him and go where? Off to Minas Tirith. Okay? So, remember how the novel began? The Departure of Boromir? Where you have Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli do what? They chase after Merry and Pippin. And then we see Gandalf show up as the White Rider. And we see Gandalf reunited with these two. And then we see all of them reunited. Now what happens? Gandalf and Pippin go off. And we have Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Merry. And what does Tolkien do? We get to the end of book 4, and we have chapter 1 of, the end of book 3, we have chapter 1 of book 4, the Taming of Smeagol. What? What's he now done? Oh, yeah. Frodo and Sam are still in the story. And where does he take us back to? Almost immediately after Frodo and Sam left the Fellowship at Parthgalen. So we go back several weeks in time. And we're left with Gandalf and Pippin leaving, and these four going, and the entire second half of the Two Towers is all about Frodo and Sam and Smeagol. One or two, psyches at least. We get the Taming of Smeagol, which we'll go through quickly. So they watch Gollum climb down the hill, the cliffside, page 613. They listen to him. They hear his talk, and Gollum drops, Sam pounces, Gollum bites Sam, and we hear bottom of 614. Gollum says, don't hurt us, don't let them hurt us, precious. They won't hurt us, will they? Nice little hobbitses. We didn't mean no harm, but they jumped on us like cats upon mice. Okay? Sam, so what's to be done with it? Notice, not him, it. Tie it up? Gollum says, no, that would kill us. Frodo says, nope, if we're going to kill him, we got to kill him outright. He's done us no harm. Sam's, rubbing his bitten shoulder. But he means to. Frodo, I dare say he does. Top of 615. But what he means to do is another matter. That is, he hasn't done it yet. He might intend evil, but he hasn't done it yet. And then Frodo, like he seems to hear a voice from the past. What a pity Bilbo did not stab the vile creature when he had a chance. Pity, it was pity that stayed his hand. He deserves death, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm afraid I won't touch the creature, for now that I see him, I do pity him. Why? Is it merely seeing Gollum that makes Frodo pity him? Or is there anything else involved?
Maybe they're both of their links with the ring.
How long has Frodo borne the ring now for? 20 years or so? How long since he known what the ring is? Several months. Okay? He has a connection with Gollum. Remember when Gandalf and Frodo were talking in the chapter The Shadow of the Past, he couldn't believe there was any connection between hobbits and golems. And now he does. Okay? So, they keep talking, bottom of 616. And they're talking to Smeagol. And Frodo says, can you find a path easier by day or night? He says, night would be better. Okay? Last couple pages of that chapter. Frodo says, we'll take the rope off, but on one condition. We won't take the rope off, sorry. Unless one condition, not unless there is any promise, it's top of page 618. Not unless there's any promise you can make that I can trust. We got to keep the rope. Who made the rope? The elves of Lothlorien. So it burns. Why? Because it's like holy rope. I mean, the elves are pure. They're good. Gollum is not. Gollum says, we will swear to do what he wants. Yes, yes. And he grabs the rope on his ankle. It hurts us. Frodo, swear. Gollum, Smeagol. Suddenly and clearly, notice he doesn't say Gollum. Smeagol. Smeagol will swear on the precious. Frodo's like, man, you're on the precious? Really? One ring to rule them all, blah, blah, blah. Gollum, on the precious, on the precious. And what would you swear? Oh, to be very, very good. No, not quite good enough. Smeagol will swear never, never to let him have it. Never. Smeagol will save it. But he must swear on the Frodo. No, not on it. You can swear by it. You know where it is? Yes, you know, Smeagol. It's before you. And Sam has kind of this vision. His master had grown, Gollum had shrunk, a tall, stern shadow, a mighty lord, who hid his brightness in gray cloud, and at his feet a little whining dog. And Gollum kind of paws at Frodo, fawning at his knees. This is important because we're going to see Gollum do this again later, just before they enter Mordor. And so, Gollum speaks his promise. We promises, yes, I promise. I will serve the master of the precious, good master, good speak, Gollum. And Frodo says, good enough for me. Why? Because Frodo didn't learn the art of negotiation from Donald Trump or whoever else you want to, say knows something about negotiation or contract law. What should Frodo have said? You say you will serve the precious or the master of the precious. Let's define master of the precious. That would be me. That will always be me until such a time as I destroy it. You will never try to hinder my destruction of the precious. You will aid me in whatever fashion I require. Oh, and by the way, the me, that would be Frodo Baggins, formerly of number 4, Bagshot Row, Hobbiton, the Shire, the west of Middle-earth, Arda. In other words, he doesn't specify his terms, which plants an idea in Gollum's mind for later on. Okay? All right, we will stop there and pick up with Passage of the Marshes, which you may not get much through that because it's a pretty important chapter.